Now, greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Now, I want us to carefully interrogate Kalonzo Musyoka's remarks on his acceptance of William Ruto's legitimacy as the president. First of all, we need to be very careful when we are handling political matters or we are talking about political matters. Because one thing that I know is that Kalonzo is a wise man. But even though he's a wise man in politics, sometimes, I have felt that the statement he made, he was not supposed to make it. I'm looking at the feedback that Kenyans are giving, especially in line with what he said. And as a matter of fact, he has come out to say that perhaps he was misquoted. In fact, he has reiterated the stand of Azimio that they are not recognizing William Ruto as a legitimately elected president. So he has recollected whatever he said and actually defended himself as having been misquoted. But at the same time, we must actually know one thing with Kalonzo Musyoka, that he is a man who has always been in the political landscape as that politician who is hardly trusted, especially with very many things that are dealing with how he operates his moves in politics. It is not the first time that somebody will come to convince you that Kalonzo likes to penya katikati. And for a good time now, I believe you heard the name that they have always dubbed Kalonzo Musyoka with in politics, the watermelon. Now, knowing the real character or real color of Kalonzo Musyoka is always very difficult. So when he makes such statement, it's kind of, he's going back to his usual default setting, which of course comes up with political questions and interpretation. But on this one, I just want us to look at two extremes. First of all, if you just go back to why Kalonzo Musyoka was selected by Azimio as the only man who will spearhead the negotiation, you realized, and actually we did it in one of the analyses actually, you realize that Kalonzo was better placed in the first place because he was the only one who was seen to be very much viable to create, sustaining rapport with the Kenya Kwanza government. So that when he makes a call to them, they come on the table, they will deliberately and intentionally go there with a good faith to handle the project. But at the same time, we have to have a caution that can make Kalonzo Musyoka to be very vulnerable to hoodwinking. I don't know if that is the best term to be used there. That can actually make Kalonzo Musyoka to be very vulnerable to be used by the Kenya Kwanza government. And let me remind you once again, if you look at the side of Kenya Kwanza and the leaders, you will note that they have always noted a soft landing spot on Kalonzo Musyoka. It is not the first time that I'm telling you that most of the times when they approach Kalonzo's region, especially the Kamba nation, they take time to tell people how Kalonzo Musyoka needs to be with them, to join the government, to support William Ruto. In fact, at the end of their rallies or political conversations with the people, they invite people to remind Kalonzo that he needs to join William Ruto and come back to his senses. So if you look at all that, they have always found a soft spot. So this soft spot, perhaps Kalonzo now being in the mix, being one of the key recipes, all right, that are bringing in the flavor of the negotiation, that can make him to be very much vulnerable to sabotage by the tricks that the government can employ on him.
And because, of course, on that part, I must congratulate the president because he has put his foot down. Anasema mazungumzo yaendelee. Na kwa sababu ya kuonyesha msimamo huo, hata na sisi tunazidi kumtambua.
And when we look at how Kalonzo has operated before, you bring in the aspects of Rigathi Gachagua the other time saying that Raila only is betraying Kalonzo by fronting him to go and negotiate some things, yet the deal had been struck between Raila and Ruto himself. So Kalonzo just going there is kind of having a motive to get something of his own, get something that can satisfy the interest he has. So in other words, if the reality could be that there was something that happened between Ruto and Raila, and Kalonzo is now just being there as a man who is championing for what he thinks he should get for himself, you will not dispute how he can go to an extent of coming out publicly and saying that this is a government that was legitimately elected and we need to actually embrace it. Now, on the other side, I want us also to look at the other extreme of how the government is trying to capture the lieutenants of Raila Odinga, and this is very key. The other time we saw Francis Atwoli having a confrontation with Raila Odinga, and we definitely saw what happened in the entire conversation. It was all about please accept William Ruto as the president, and the other side there was a stand that we cannot actually accept William Ruto as the president. Just one day after it, Kalonzo is coming on board and embracing William Ruto as the president. Could there be something that is being used as a bait to actually confine the key lieutenants of Raila Odinga and force them to come out publicly, well, that, we are accepting you as the president, we are accepting your government, we are embracing your government in totality? Could there be something that is a compelling force that is being used for some specific, leaders that are backing Raila Odinga, to an extent that if we see Kalonzo himself coming out in that manner, what would you say? There could be something that is really happening. So to that extreme, you would actually question Kalonzo's good intentions or the intention that he has in championing for Azimio's actually rights. Otherwise, nowadays they have left Raila Odinga to go to these political rallies by himself. Of course, it is very much understandable that for Kalonzo and the team that are siding with him in the talks, they will not just appear in any political rally. But you would again question that, because we see Eugene Wamalwa attending rallies with Raila Odinga. Why is Kalonzo Musyoka taking that back seat? Why is he dwindling in his spirit of going into these rallies like we used to see before we had the teams formed to represent both sides? There is a big question. There is an elephant in the room that needs to be actually discussed. Now, I want to give Kalonzo Musyoka a shilling, and this is what I think. If he said it in good faith to actually entice Kenya Kwanza to continuously go into the talks willingly and not push Azimio to the corner, then we might give Kalonzo a shilling that he acted wisely with a statement. And you always know, I like to say this, always appear as a friend, but know that you are a spy. Perhaps him as the elder, if you look at the two sides, Kalonzo is the elder of them all. And so he must play his diplomatic professionalism, okay? He must actually display the wisdom. For these cases, actually, wisdom needs to be seen. And perhaps, this is something that he thought, that if I come out to publicly showcase that this is a government that we need to accept, there could be something that he was sending as a coded message for Kenya Kwanza to know, if you are accepting us, then we will give you every facilitation that you need for you to get to the output or the outcome that you desire. At the back of his mind, he knows very well that this is not the time to betray Raila Odinga, because he relies on his political, staff. And as they always say, a failing heart can never win a fair lady. If Kalonzo's heart fails right now to win the fair lady of Raila Odinga's political temerity, he might not see the light at the end of the tunnel in as far as inheriting what Raila had in politics is concerned, and to fulfill the ambitions that he has in his quest for presidency. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? What do you have from your side? Let me listen to you. We can actually talk. I'll see you next. Have a great time.